Okay, so welcome to part two,
How many parts are there?
three. I want to do three parts. And the story goes, or the joke goes, that there was a Jewish fellow and he ended up, for whatever reason, in the non-kosher restaurant. And he ordered a big, it was like a big, a big event. He had a whole family, so he ordered a big, pig on a platter. Like he really went all out. And lo and behold, the rabbi walks in. And the rabbi starts up a conversation, and the story doesn't make sense because rabbis, I wouldn't expect a rabbi to be in a restaurant, but that's how the joke goes. The rabbi's in the restaurant, and they're having a whole conversation, and the guy's getting all nervous, like soon they're going to bring out his order, and he's going to feel all uncomfortable. Either way, they finally bring out this large platter with a pig, and he's like getting red in the face, like he has to save himself. Suddenly, he thinks of something. So the way they served it, there was like an apple in its mouth.
Mhm.
It's one of like the decorations or whatever. So the fellow says, "Hey, Rabbi, look how they decorated this apple." So
Yeah, that's Jewish thinking. Turn everything on its head.
yeah, I'm not sure how the rabbi bought that, but so today I want to talk about the more known and the lesser known details of kosher. What things are which things are not kosher, which things are kosher. So last week we spoke about a lot of the why, and now we're going to get into some more of the details, and we're also going to talk about some of the details. Sorry, we're also going to talk about some of the why within some of the details, but we're going to learn a lot of details, a lot of hopefully some new things. So we'll start off with the basics. We'll go through, I guess, the basic species. So everyone knows that when it comes to animals,
A
a kosher
pig is not
pigs
kosher.
are not kosher. Yes, we learned that in the story in the joke. Um, but generally speaking, a kosher animal, for it to be kosher, needs to have two signs. And that's the way it says it in the Torah. It says it has to have. And I'm going to use the words that I grew up with when I was in kindergarten. I don't know, there's probably better words for them, but a it has to have split hooves, hooves,
Oops.
and it has to chew its cud, which means it like regurgitates it. It chews its food more than once, usually twice. So if it has those two signs, it's kosher. Um, the animals we all know, a cow or a sheep, all these things have those signs. Um, Famously, a pig has one of them, but since it's missing both signs, it's still not kosher. In fact, the Torah actually says clearly, it says you may not eat a pig. It says a pig is not kosher. It actually says it lists a few things. So the Torah says kind of the general, it says it has to have split hooves and chew its cud. And then it gives a few examples. I think it's four examples. It says a pig, a camel, both of those only, I don't remember which ones are which. I know a pig has split hooves, but does not chew its cud. And then the camel, and then also two different kinds of rabbits, or a rabbit, a hare. Those are the four animals that the Torah says clearly are not kosher. Actually, interesting enough, the Medrash says, there's a Medrash out there, it says that when Mashiach will come in the future, it says the pig will become kosher.
Why?
And in fact, it says it's hinted to in the word in the name. The word in for pig in Hebrew is chazir, and that shares this. It's a very similar letters with the word of chazara, which means to return. So the way it's understood is that it's within its name, it's kind of hinted to that it's going to return to to the kosher side. Now, how is that going to work?
Is that, is there an explanation
So
for
the
that?
way it's going to work is that, of course, the laws of Torah don't change. So it's not like we're suddenly going to drop one of the requirements and suddenly things become kosher, but rather that the anatomy of the pig is going to change, and it's going to start chewing its cud.
Does that mean that religious pigs are waiting for the Messiah?
Maybe, but But yeah, that's just an interesting medrash that's out there. But yeah, generally it has to, that's not for now. For now, we have to have split hooves and shoe is cut. Now, what's the reason behind that? Um, you know what, before that, there's a little bit of a philosophical question when it comes to these two signs, splitting the hooves and chewing is cut. So we're gonna get a little philosophical now. And the question is, these just indicative signs which tell us what's inherently kosher? Or are these the signs that make it kosher? It's a philosophical question. There might be practical differences. I mean, let's say if I knew, let's say somehow there was an animal that was born with missing, let's say it was missing legs. So it doesn't have split hooves. But I assume, its mother was a goat and its father was a goat. It's probably a goat. It's probably kosher. So this is where the question comes up. Is this indicative? And therefore, since I have another indicator, it's still kosher? Or is that what makes it kosher? And then maybe it's not so simple.
Well, let's look forward in the days when the Messiah comes and the pig becomes kosher. Wouldn't that be a change to the Torah?
It's a good question. So that's why I was saying that the anatomy of the pig will change.
Oh, okay. That one, excuse me.
Right? So the Torah says that it's unkosher because it does not chew its cud, but once it starts chewing its cud, it's a different.
Hmm.
Yeah, so this philosophical question is, are these signs what makes it kosher, or are they just indicative? And the evidence seems to point in more to the second way, in that the signs actually make them kosher. There's something about chewing cud, something about having split hooves that's positive. There's something good about that, and that makes it kosher. That makes it special. There's some spiritual significance to that. So what is that? What's the message of splitting hooves and chewing the cud? So there's different explanations, but one explanation that I want to share was that I read from the Rebbe, and so I want to start with chewing the cud. I'm sorry, I want to start with splitting the hooves. So the hooves are on the bottom of the animal, the lowest part. It's the part that touches the floor. If it would not have hooves, then the skin or the whatever it is, maybe it's hair, would touch the floor directly. Instead, it has hooves which kind of separate the animal and lift it up, drop above the ground. So spiritually, that represents that we should have a certain sense of separation between our spiritual life and then the mundane parts of our life.
Well, we do,
Okay.
don't we?
Yeah, we're kosher. We do. Right, so the ground represents it's mundane. It's not holy. It's just plain. And there should be a certain division, a certain barrier in a way, and that's because we want to stay focused. We don't want to get lost in things that are they're not bad, they're not evil, but it's not holy. It's just mundane. It's just plain. We want to do better than that. So of course we need to be involved in mundane things in life. That's how life is. But we want to recognize that we stand above that. We want to strive for higher. At the same time, that that separation has to be split.
Why does it have to be
It
split?
has to be split because even though we want to we want to have this barrier, we also want to infuse holiness into the mundane. So we want to leave that opening. So I want to be separate, but we also want to have this connection. So that's what's special about splitting the hoof. That's what makes it kosher. That's what makes it
Well,
special.
what about chickens? They don't have hooves.
Right. So that of course this only applies when it comes to animals.
Chicken's an animal,
I'm talking about the species that have
hooves.
hooves.
Oh,
When it comes to birds, well, as we'll talk soon, birds have a different framework the way we know they're kosher. The same thing with chewing the cud. So chewing the cud means to, it's regurgitating. It represents thinking something over again. So again, it has to do with our relation to the mundane. When we want to, if we have an opportunity to get involved in something which is, just plain, it's not holy, it's not unholy, it's just mundane. So it's not, you might think, okay, it's good, there's nothing unholy about it. Why not? Let's do it. Let's run with it. So chewing the cud reminds us that we want to give it a double take. Because again, if it's not holy, then we want to really make sure that this is something we need. This is the right thing.
I heard one story that there's a common difference between the different animals, where one is basically vegetarian and the other is carnivorous. Generally, non-kosher
Right.
animals are carnivorous.
Right. Yeah, when it comes to birds, when I get to birds in a minute, I first prepared fish. When it comes to birds, we'll see that's like an automatic indicator. Because when it comes to birds, it's a little less clear. The way the Torah describes it, it's a little bit harder to figure out. But if it's a bird of prey, it's for sure out of the picture. That's for sure not kosher. Yes, the same thing with animals. Yeah, none of the cows or none of these animals
So
are.
birds of prey are not kosher?
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, we don't want to have, when you eat something, you're ingesting everything with it. You're ingesting the character. I don't want to become a person of prey. So okay, so when it comes to fish.
Yeah, some fish are carnivorous.
Yeah, I'm trying to think now. I don't even know if that rule applies to fish. I would assume so.
It seems to Adam and Eve, we were humans of prey, and then when Noah came along, changed that for us and allowed us to be carnivorous.
Right. So we're allowed to eat other animals, but not other humans.
No, yes.
But we can eat other animals that, well, some animals eat worms. And that's kind of meat.
Right. Which animals are those? I'm trying to
Some
think.
birds eat
Birds.
animals.
Okay. I mean, if you think about it, I'm just giving a guess. So if a human is allowed to eat kind of whatever's there's kind of different levels. So a human is allowed to eat an animal. That's not considered. And of course, some people have a harder time with it, and that's why people are vegetarian. But that's not considered, cruel.
You're eating
As much.
what they ate.
Right. So I'm thinking maybe a bird is, maybe an insect is on a lower level. I don't know. I don't know. Okay, so when it comes to fish, of course, we know the Torah also describes two signs that make a fish kosher, and that are fins and scales. Fins are these things that it swims with. It's like little paddles, and scales are little scales, like it's like a coat of armor on the fish. And of course, it has to have both. If it doesn't have any of those, if it doesn't have both, if it only has one, it's not kosher. Interestingly, the Talmud gives us kind of a hint, and that is that if a fish has scales, then it will also have fins. So I don't have to look for the fins. If I just have to look for a fish that has scales. If it has scales, I know it's going to have fins. So that kind of just makes our life easier, But I want to talk about the deeper meaning of this as well. So what do fins and scales represent? What's the positive attributes here that make it kosher? Again, because like we said, the signs are not only indicative, but they're also making it kosher. So what's special that these signs make it kosher? So the fins and scales represent two different, special things, and they're both good. And as we're going to see, there's sometimes some tension between them. We still have to have both. So scales is kind of like a protection. It represents integrity, making sure we stick to our values, making sure we stay moral, we stay good, we stay well.
Integrity.
Our integrity. So
Okay.
my scales will be
So-
my integrity.
I was gonna say, how much integrity would a fish have?
Right. Right. I mean, and if it's not alive, it's either in the fridge or out of the fridge. I mean, the scales are not going to make it, it's not going to protect it. Yeah, so scales represent our integrity. On the other hand, there's a concept of fins. Fins is what propels the fish to move. And that could be our ambition. To get out there, to try new things, to move. And sometimes there could be a little bit of tension sometimes. Sometimes the people that are ambitious sometimes have a harder time with integrity, and sometimes integrity can make me less ambitious. And the question would be, where they're both good and they're both special. Where do I forgive? On which side do I err? Which side, what's more important? So as we said, the kind of the main factor that you're going to look for is the scales. Because if it has, as we said, if it has scales, it's going to have fins. In other words, integrity is the more important thing. That's what I need to look for. That's what I need to strive towards. If I have that, then my fins, my ambitions will be put in place as well.
So if you happen to just see the fins, you can assume it has scales?
The opposite way, all the way around. If it has scales, then you see it, then you know it has fins.
And if you see the fins, then you know it has scales?
No, not necessarily.
Oh,
There are
okay.
fish that have fins without scales.
Like a
Oh,
shark.
okay, got it.
Yeah. So again, and the meaning behind that, the deeper meaning is that, we want to have integrity and ambition, but integrity, the
Integrity
scales,
first.
those come first. And as it says, if you have the scales, then you know you have the fins as well.
Okay.
So that's when it comes to fish. Of course, gefilte fish are always kosher. They don't have to have any science. They're always even
But the filter fish comes in a plastic bag. If you're gonna make it yourself,
right,
you don't know what fish they are.
right.
Well, you kind of believe in the integrity of the label.
Yeah, integrity. Okay, so that's when it comes to fish. Now, when it comes to birds, so I said before that birds are a little more complicated. And the reason for that is because the Torah doesn't give us any signs for the birds. Instead, it just gives us a long list. It says, do not eat this bird and this bird, this bird and this bird and this bird. And of course, it's using Hebrew names. And, many of these birds were not
Don't exist anymore.
either they don't exist anymore, or they weren't, maybe they never existed around where Jews were living. Around Israel, it wasn't so common to find certain birds. So it's very hard if you just take a Bible, take a Chumash, and you just read out of there. It's very hard to figure out what's actually kosher. So for that, the sages in the Talmud gave us some signs. They give us some tips. Generally, there's three signs. It has to have one of them is a requirement, and then one of the other two. So it has to have two out of those three signs. So one of them we said is bird of prey. We mentioned that before. If it's a bird of prey, it's automatically out, automatic disqualification. Then we know for sure then it's got to be one of those that are listed as prohibited. And then there's another two conditions which it has to have one of these to be kosher. I'm sorry, I think it has to not have one of these to be kosher. So one of those is to have an extra finger, like the way that I guess different birds have different amounts
Oh,
of
the
fingers. The talons, yeah. I'm not even, I didn't look it
Now,
up.
which one is extra?
Right, I
Some
didn't look
have
this up.
three, some have four.
So I would imagine the fourth is the extra one. And then another sign is it's hard to this is something you have to wait until the bird is not alive, is the way that a certain part of the intestines, there's a certain part of the skin that's if it's kosher, it's very soft. You're able to peel it off like just with your finger. So that's another tip, another sign that the sages gave us. It's recorded in the Talmud. Um, Now practically, even these signs are still not really enough to use practically, and the way that it's been done for quite a while in Jewish tradition is that we have to rely on tradition.
Is there anything in the Torah that indicates that the clean animals of Noah's time were kosher animals and vice versa?
You're saying clearly in the verse?
In Noah, okay? He was told to take so many of clean animals and so many
Right.
not clean animals. So I've read generally there's no correspondence between clean and not clean and kosher and not kosher in terms of what we understand today.
And and when it comes to Noah, the Torah doesn't give us the Torah itself, the
Mhm.
actual text of the Torah doesn't give us any
Mhm.
more details,
Okay.
but it does use the exact same word. When it comes to kosher, it says pure and impure,
Mhm.
and with Noah, it uses the same words.
Okay.
And then of course, if you look in the commentaries, that they say it clearly. They say it's the same kosher. Yeah, yeah. So when it comes to birds, so practically the way we actually determine if a bird is kosher is if there is tradition that this is kosher. So I mean, we know that chicken is kosher because we've always been eating chicken. And the common birds that are kosher, they've always been around and we've always been eating them, so we know that those are for sure kosher. If you want to find some exotic bird,
Well,
that's a little bit more difficult to
what
find out.
may be common here may not be common somewhere else.
Right. Yeah, I mean there's definitely discussion of how, even within chickens. So we have evidence that, chickens have always been talked about in Jewish law. There's always it's like the household word. But we know that there's different breeds of chickens. Like, the chickens that we eat here in America might be different than what was eaten in Israel 1,000 years ago. Different breed, maybe different size. But it's the same family, the same chicken. Where actually one of the more controversial birds is a turkey, because turkey is a new age, it's a new world bird. So there wasn't really any tradition ever, at whatever point someone showed up in America and there was this turkey and someone decided, okay, it's got to be kosher, but it was brand new. It was never used in Jewish circles. Jews didn't live here way back. So practically it is kosher. I mean, there are some people
Well,
who
we get kosher turkeys,
yeah,
so.
turkeys are kosher. There are certain families that try to avoid it because of this. But I mean, it's a very rare. I mean, generally, turkey. I eat turkey. Turkeys are kosher. One of the ways that we know that it's kosher is because Here's another sign. Kosher birds cannot interbreed with unkosher birds.
Interesting.
It just won't work. They won't have children. And with turkeys, it has been tried. They do breed with kosher birds.
No, scientifically, that can be determined by whether.
Right.
Hmm.
So that's one very strong indication that turkeys are
Turkeys
kosher.
are kosher.
Sorry?
What other birds are
What
kosher?
other birds? I didn't prepare a list. I could try to find out.
Well,
Doves, I think doves are kosher. I mean, it's one of the sacrifices. Um,
and doves are in the same family as pigeons.
yeah, I think pigeons are kosher as well. Duck, I believe is kosher. Trying to think what else is there? What else is out there? In the Torah, there's a story when the Jews were in the desert, they ate quail. So I don't know if that's even available today, but quail is
Quail
yeah.
everywhere.
Okay. So
We have quail here in California.
oh, like live, wild.
Yeah,
Okay. Maybe I'll have it for dinner tomorrow. I'll catch one.
it's good.
Okay. Yeah. In the Torah, it said they were delicious. It says the Jews were loving them. They were eating them for months.
Not a lot of meat, but it's good.
Okay, so that's when it comes to birds. Of course, when it comes to eggs, so really the same would apply both for fish and for birds. Whatever it's coming out of, it holds the same status. So an egg of a kosher bird will be kosher. An egg of an unkosher bird will be unkosher. And same thing for fish, for those that eat fish eggs.
That raises a question in my mind where kashrut, having dairy with meat is not kosher. You're not showing see the kid in the mother's milk. Okay, so why would chicken and eggs be kosher?
Why would it be kosher?
Yeah. I don't hear anything saying it's not kosher.
Right, it is. It's absolutely kosher.
Uh,
There's a discussion. I remember when I was studying to be a rabbi, so I remember there's a whole like chapter where it was discussed different recipes. People used to stuff chicken with eggs, and there's different. Someone did it wrong. Someone did. There's a question of blood. I mean, but without the blood, it would be kosher. Um, I want to really speak more about the milk and meat next week. Generally, milk and meat that's really the exception.
what?
That's really the exception. That's really the anomaly.
Okay,
The milk and meat. Generally, kosher plus kosher equals kosher.
okay.
Milk and meat is the only place where you have kosher meat and kosher milk, mix them together, and suddenly they're definitely not kosher. Everyone knows that's one of the most famous things, milk and meat. We don't mix milk and meat. So that's the anomaly. And no, I want to speak next week a little bit about the spiritual side to it. Of course, it's only on a base. It's the main idea of it is something which we don't understand, but there are spiritual ideas, spiritual, I guess you could say, hints behind it. Yeah, looking forward to next week to talk about that. Okay, so that's those are the general species. We spoke about animals, fish, and birds. Now I want to talk about some other details. There's a whole list. I mean, we mentioned last week how I think we said close to 40 different mitzvahs that relate to food. Right, so just now we just mentioned three of them. Right, we mentioned kosher animals, kosher fish, and kosher birds. But there's a whole bunch more. So we'll talk about some of those. So the first one is when it comes to bugs. Actually, bugs we mentioned last week. So bugs are not kosher. Not a single one of them. Bugs are never kosher. And the one exception is there's a few specific kinds of locusts. The Torah says clearly, the Torah again mentions them by name, which again makes it difficult to know what they are. But there's 4 specific kinds of locusts which are kosher. If anyone's ever interested, you could eat those locusts. Now go figure out which ones they are. It gets more complicated. So the Talmud, of course, gives us a few different.
What about the locusts that invaded Egypt?
I don't know. There's no record.
Okay,
I don't know what they were. There's a few different signs that are given. It has to have a certain kind of legs and a certain length of wings, but it's still not enough because there's thousands of different species, and how are you gonna know this is the one? It's very hard to know. So practically, we don't eat locusts. In case, even if you were interested, those people that would have been interested, we don't eat locusts. and or any other bugs.
Sometimes you can't help it. You inhale them.
Right. Oh, so very good. So things that are microscopic are not considered bugs. Halachically, they're not considered bugs. So it has to be visible to the physical eye for it to be considered a bug, which is unkosher. And one thing which makes life very hard is vegetables or fruits. We mentioned this briefly last week, but nowadays, especially in the last few decades, once they discovered that a lot of the pesticides were very, very unhealthy for humans, they used to use very, very strong pesticides, and then they kind of toned them down a lot to make it healthier. So with that came a lot of infestation. And now many, many things that we buy could be, especially if it's leafy greens, those have high chance of infestation. So that could be a big that could be problematic. And a lot of times, you'll say, "Oh, I look at it, I don't see bugs crawling around." But a lot of times, that's not because they're too small. That's just because we don't know how to look. We don't. If I don't know what kind of bug it is. I don't know what it looks like, so I just don't notice it.
You
the
wash it.
Yeah, so it's a special. So the kosher agencies, actually, a lot of them, they have their website, and they have a special section for instructions on how to wash different vegetables. And there's different, because there's different kinds of bugs, and sometimes they cling on. You have to use this kind of soap, and you have to agitate it. There's different ways of doing it. I want to talk a little bit more next week about when we come to the kosher kitchen. We'll talk a little bit more. But yeah, so that's just one thing where you might think like I'm keeping kosher, so I won't eat bugs. Fine, I won't buy any bugs. Sometimes we forget how much it actually relates to us, how practical it actually is to be keeping that, not to eat bugs.
I think that's why we wash our fruits and vegetables.
Yeah, I mean, the truth is, I remember once looking up online to figure out like what's the recommended way to wash a specific vegetable, and I found non-Jewish websites that are also giving these instructions, and they're also showing pictures of infestation because it's not only Jewish people that want to avoid eating these bugs. It's it might be repulsive for other reasons, not non-spiritual reasons.
Kind of is repulsive.
Yeah, I mean, some people say it's there's good protein there, but
I remember
it's okay. I'll pass.
my grandfather was a baker, and one time ants got into the bakery,
Oh man.
and he killed what he could. A lot of them got onto cookies. He just put them in the oven. He said that'll kill them. And those cookies sold like hotcakes for some reason.
Yeah, and I guess they do taste good. I don't know.
I wouldn't think so, but they're only ants. It's a little extra protein.
Okay, so now I'm gonna go through this whole. I wrote up a whole list here, and it's not even an exhaustive list. That's why I brought along this book, in case we need to cover more. There's more in the book. So another very important law, and this I think most people probably do this anyways, is we don't. It's unkosher to eat an animal while it's still alive, or to eat even a
Why
limb
would
of an
you?
animal. Yeah, why would you? I don't know.
Ew.
No, apparently, in different kinds of cultures, there are such practices for certain things, but
Took away the need for refrigeration.
yeah, if you don't have a fridge, that could definitely be. Yeah, that's true. So this actually is prohibited not only for Jews. This is one of the seven Noahide laws, the seven Noahide prohibitions, which are obligatory for all of mankind. We're not supposed to eat something that's still alive. You have to make sure it's no longer alive.
Which makes lobster not kosher for several reasons.
Oh, is that they Eat it while it's alive? Is that how it's done?
Though they cook it alive, actually.
Oh, they cook it alive.
Yeah, they take the live lobster. Lobsters have no brain. They have a brain stem. So supposedly they feel no pain.
Hmm. So it's less cruel.
They don't scream.
I heard that they do.
Yeah, they don't.
I heard that even trees will scream
Hmm.
when you take something off. They'll scream at a different frequency. Someone was telling me this last week. I don't know.
So what happens when you have a fruit tree and you pull the fruit off?
Yeah,
Are they
you got
crying?
yeah, maybe.
If the tree isn't old enough, it's a crime.
No, but listen, if we're gonna eat animals,
I have a lot of fruit trees. I don't want to be hurting my fruit.
okay, so forget what I said. Forget what I said. Someone told it to me. I didn't even look it up. It was on Shabbos. Someone told it to me, and I mean, I'll tell you why. I thought it rang a bell in my head because it says in the Talmud that when Mashiach will come, it says that the trees will scream if we do something improper. It says if I want, you're not supposed to pick fruits on Shabbos. It says that when Mashiach will come, the trees will scream at you if you're about to pick the fruit on Shabbos. It'll say, Shabbos, don't pick the fruits.
Well,
So
that makes sense.
yeah, so when I heard that even now trees will actually scream in some form. So it made sense to me, but I don't know if it's
There's another thing I heard that if you happen to be planting a tree and you hear the Messiah has come, finish planting the tree, then go greet the Messiah.
okay. I never heard that. Very interesting. Okay, so yeah, so that's when it comes to living creatures. Definitely don't eat living creatures. Okay, now what should we do as when it comes to eating kosher? This is probably more famous, but of course there's a lot of details that are maybe less famous, is that when we do kill the animal to make sure it's no longer alive, we have to do it in a specific way. Of course, this doesn't apply to fish. So only animals and birds have to be slaughtered in a kosher way. In Hebrew, it's called shechita. They have to be slaughtered in a certain way. Actually, if you look in the Torah, when it comes to shechita, it's very interesting the way the Torah describes it. Torah says, it's Moshe talking to the Jewish people. He says that when you slaughter, you should slaughter as I have commanded you. Okay, so go look around, read through the Torah. Nowhere else does it tell you. It's not recorded. What did he say? So that's how we know that there has to be an oral Torah. There has to be an oral tradition, because it's got to be somewhere. He himself referenced it, but it's not written, so it's got to be somewhere. And we know those are the laws of shechita. There's a lot of details. One of the famous things is it has to be an unserrated knife. It has to be totally. I don't know how to describe it.
A straight knife.
Straight, yeah, straight. No serrated. In fact, the shochet has to. They actually check with their nails. It's like you have to be very focused and very calm, very relaxed, and they really focus and try to find the tiniest nick. And if it has something, they have right away. They have their sharpening rocks. They always have it
They
with
use
them.
stone.
Yeah, stone. Yeah. So my brother actually is certified to do kosher slaughtering. So he has his whole kit. He has his different knives and his stones, and he does it every once in a while. My younger brother, Yisrael. I don't know if you remember him. So yeah, so there's many details. It's like a whole field. It's like a specialty field. It's not just something you just learn how to do in a day. There's a whole book with all the laws, and you got to practice, and um there's many details in
Everything else.
how where the throat should be cut has to be specifically on the throat. It has to be cut, in a certain speed, there's many different particular laws.
So that the animal doesn't suffer.
Right. Of course, it's the idea that it's the least suffering possible. Now, if the animal, if the slaughtering is not done the right way, so the animal is not kosher. There's a special word for it. It's called nevela. Nevela means like a corpse.
So what happens to the non-kosher killed animal?
It's sold to the supermarket.
Garbage, or is that maybe?
Yeah, you could sell it. You could give it to a Gentile who will be happy to buy it. In fact, they say that I've been told that the big kosher slaughterhouses, a lot of times they sell a bigger percentage of their market is non-kosher because there's so many animals that become disqualified along the process. As we see, there's a lot of things that happen, you know, until it actually gets packaged. So a lot of times, more ends up being non-kosher than kosher.
Which is why kosher meat is so expensive.
Right. Right. And they're always trying to keep it, to keep the prices down. They're always finding different methods, but it's a big challenge. Yeah, so that's the term nevela. Nevela means a corpse. It means an animal that's dead, but it wasn't made dead in the kosher way. So it's just a corpse.
I remember when I was growing up, we had a place, a house in the Catskills, and they had a kosher butcher there where these chickens were hanging.
Oh, like
Like
after
the
they were slaughtered.
Chinese.
Yeah,
Place smelled bad.
I'm sure. Yeah. Yeah, I've been to these places before. It's a special experience.
But those chickens were the best.
It's fresh.
Yeah.
Okay, so that leads us into the next word. Everyone knows this word, and the word is treifa. In Hebrew, it's treifa. Treif. We say treif. So it kind of became a more general term. The term developed into meaning anything that's not kosher is treif. But really, it refers to a particular prohibition, one of the 40 or whatever it is. It's one particular prohibition, and that is an animal which is a kosher species, but is dangerously ill. It's an animal that cannot survive the year. It's not going to live more. It's not going to live through a full year. It's not going to be kosher. Whatever you do, even if you slaughter it, in the most kosher way, it's not kosher. Now, how do you determine if an animal is going to make it through the year, if it's severely unhealthy or not?
Same way you determine if a person's unhealthy.
So you're saying you go to a vet for an animal.
I would think so, yeah.
So it says the Talmud says that actually it's not necessarily true. And the Talmud actually gives a list of 70, I guess, ailments or conditions that would tell you that it's for sure not going to live through the year. If there's any other ailment that's not part of those 70, it's not a problem. Even if modern medicine would not be so enthusiastic about that. It would think that it's very dangerous, but if it's not one of those seven, it's not on that list of the 70 that's in the Talmud, it's not a problem, at least, not for kosher wise.
Well, I don't know if you'd have a situation where you kill an animal, it's dead, and then a year and a day later, it wakes up and says, "You're wrong."
So that's one of the reasons why the animal has to be checked. I mean, with chickens, there's a lot less things to worry about. Chickens are, I guess, more safe. I don't know. But when it comes to bigger animals, a cow, so they have to check certain areas before they certify that it's going to be kosher. They have to check certain areas, check the lungs, and check, make sure there's no piercing in the lungs, or there's different things that they have to check for because it's very common.
Like mad cow disease.
I'm not sure what that is. Is that with the
It
lungs?
was something that was in the news a number of years ago. I don't know what it is. It sounds like an insane cow.
Oh, mad cow disease.
Mad cow disease?
Yeah.
It was in the news several years ago. It was an outbreak.
Yeah, so that's so again, so anything that would have one of these ailments that's part of the list in the Talmud, one of the 70, that would make it treif, treifa. Literally, treifa actually means I don't know how to say it in English. When an animal is like attacked, it
And
becomes
wounded?
prey. So
Roadkill.
I guess, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's called treifa. It's called, it's attacked. It doesn't have, it's not necessarily if it's attacked by another animal, or maybe it fell off a roof or something, but it got mauled, I guess. Is that a word? Mauled? That's a translation of
Yeah,
treifa.
that's if a bear gets into the.
Okay.
I remember a TV show where a reality show where the people lived in the South somewhere and were very poor, and there was a roadkill, and they went out and got it and used it for food.
Okay. Right. That would be a classic example of a treifa.
Yes,
Okay, what else do we have here? Okay, here's another thing. There's another part of there's a few parts of every kosher animal that are not kosher. Even though the species are kosher, but certain parts are never kosher. So one of them is the sciatic nerve. Certain area on the back legs. It's a certain nerve, so anywhere along that nerve is not kosher. And not only the nerve itself, but even certain fats that are around it are also not kosher. And this actually goes back to a story with Jacob, like we know, where Jacob was on his way to meet his brother Esau, and there was a lot of tension. It was a very nervous moment. And on the way, in the middle of the night, there was an angel that wrestled with Jacob, and he ended up in his last moments before Jacob, defeated him. He hit Jacob on that nerve, I guess the counterpart in the human body. And we know the story. Jacob was limping, and then Hashem miraculously healed him.
Oh, that's good, because there's nothing worse than sciatica.
Oh, it's an official. It's like an actual condition.
Yeah, where you hurt from
yes.
the side of your leg all the way almost down to your knee.
Yeah. So the Torah, wow, the Torah says that as he was walking, it was the story happened overnight. So as he was walking, it started getting day. The sun started coming up, and the sun actually healed him somehow. I don't know if that works in modern science, but it was a miraculous healing. But ever since then, the Torah says right over there, it says, the Torah says because of that, we do not eat the sciatic nerve of any animal.
One thing came to mind, Balaam's donkey,
Right.
okay? Probably unkosher animal. Does that have any significance to the story?
Well, yeah, donkeys are definitely not kosher.
Oh, well, yeah, I know, but does that, obviously the donkey wasn't used for food or anything, but there's the fact that the donkey's a non-kosher animal. Did that have anything to do with the story? Or is there any?
That's nothing that comes to mind. There is something about it, the donkey in general, when it comes to the word for donkey in Hebrew is chamor,
Yes.
and the word for like very coarse physicality is chumriyut. So it's a similar letters. So donkey represents something which is very, very physical, very coarse. And if you look in the Torah, there's actually three episodes of Jews using a donkey. So number one, you have Abraham.
Yes.
It's on the way to the binding of Isaac, it says he took his donkey and says he put his stuff on the donkey. Then moving forward, you have Moses on his way down to Egypt. He put his family on a donkey. And then moving ahead to the future, hopefully very soon, it says Mashiach will come riding on a donkey. He himself will be riding on a donkey. So the commentaries point out how it's kind of a progression, and how we're able to use out the coarse physicality. We're kind of bridging the gap. It's becoming closer, and it's becoming. First, Abraham he wasn't able to direct. He only had like an indirect interaction. He put his stuff on it. He wasn't able to. It was too far. Moses was able to put his family, and Mashiach will be himself on the donkey. Just thought, I don't know if that answers your question at all. It's nothing to do with Bilam.
Well, it did answer the question in saying that the donkey is a significant creature in the Torah.
Yeah.
Well, they were allowed to use beasts of burden, and a donkey is a beast of
Yeah.
burden.
Of course. It says when the Jews came out of Egypt, it says they all had several donkeys full with, you know,
Their stuff.
with stuff that they got. Like, they got gifts and everything. So everyone had their own fortune that they carried on a donkey. It was definitely used. As long as you're not eating it. Okay, another part of an animal which is never kosher, and this applies specifically to domesticated animals. So like cows, sheep, goats, is there certain fats, certain areas of fat which are totally off limits.
One,
I'm not even sure what they are
well,
actually, and
yeah, it's sort of connected with Jacob wrestling with the angel. And he had to walk over the limp, so that part of the animal with the rear end of his rump is not kosher for that.
right. So that's the nerve. We mentioned that before. The nerve, and also rabbinically, they also tell us to stay away from the fats that are near the nerve. That's like one area, kind of like on the legs. But then in the more main part of the stomach, there's also two or three different areas of fat which are prohibited. The reason why is because those parts are apparently they're particularly delicious, and when we used to have animal sacrifices, those were the parts of the animal that were offered on the altar. There's different kinds of sacrifices. So some animals were the whole animal was burnt up, but there was always certain fats were always taken off. So those parts we're not allowed to. Those are off limits for us.
The best parts, right?
The best parts.
Hmm.
For that reason, it's there's ways of extracting those parts. You kind of eat around it. You take out what you can't have, and then you eat everything else. But it's very complex, and it's very time consuming. And because of that, a lot of times you just won't find like the whole backside of an animal in the kosher market. It's just too complicated. They'll just sell it off to somewhere else. Because it's not, it's more of a fat thing, and it has to be,
Well,
picked out.
schmaltz. What about schmaltz? That's chicken fat.
Yeah, that's
kosher.
absolutely, that's very kosher.
That's the best part of a chicken.
It also smells very good
Yes.
when you fry it.
Which one is it?
The schmaltz,
It's really schmaltz just means fat, any fat.
chicken fat.
Okay, another very, very common, I mean, of course it's common. It exists in every living creature, is something called blood.
Oh,
I'm sure you heard of it. So blood is not kosher. Right? It makes sense. It's blood is a life. You don't want to eat the life. So blood is very not kosher. That's why it's another part of making an animal kosher is extracting the blood. That's a whole process for itself. Back in the day before meat was commercially made, back in the shtetl. So every housewife would do this herself, right? The process was let's say you had a chicken, you'd go to the farm or wherever it was, you'd get a chicken, then you'd bring it to the kosher slaughterer. He would slaughter it, and then you'd bring it home and finish it off yourself. So you'd salt it. I remember this is one of the things we studied when we became rabbis. We had to know how to do this process. We had to learn all the details of salting. And I went to go visit my grandfather. He's like, "Oh, what are you learning nowadays?" And I told him salting. So he was like, "Oh, you should ask my mother. She probably knows it better than you." But yeah, that was a real thing. And generally, the process is the meat is first soaked to soften up everything, then it's rinsed, and then it's loaded up with tons of salt. It can't be too light. It has to be a little bit coarse. That's the idea of kosher salt. Kosher salt means it's a certain level of coarseness.
They use this kosher salt now.
Right. I guess the reason why it's kosher salt is because it was used for making kosher meat. and it has to, again, it has to soak, it has to sit in that for a while. I think it's about
I never made that
25
connection.
minutes.
I never knew why kosher salt is called kosher salt.
That's what they say. Kosher salt. Yeah, and then once that's done, you have a lot, you don't want to have that salt because that salt has blood in it as well. So you have to wash it off. And once that's done, then it's good to go. Now there are certain parts of the animal that are more, I guess, more saturated with blood, and the process is more complicated. So for example, the liver. Apparently livers have to do with blood, right? It like filters out the
Yeah,
blood.
filters the blood.
So it's there's a lot of blood there. So
Yeah, you don't. Yeah, then why do we eat chopped liver?
because it's kosher.
Why is it kosher?
So why is it kosher? So there's a very specific way of preparing it to extract the blood. So I mentioned before that the way to do it is by salting. That's only one of the ways. There's another way, and that is roasting. Roasting something in an open fire, the fire will just draw everything right out. So that's like, in a way, that's easier. You don't have to go through soaking and rinsing and salting. You could just put it on the barbecue. But let's say you don't want to do that. Let's say you want to cook your chicken. You want to have a chicken soup. So that's where you have to do salting. But in many ways, the open fire actually works better. So that's how liver is done. Livers have to be, you can't salt them. It's not going to be enough. But livers could be, roasted on the flame directly on the open flame, and that will remove the fat. That will remove the water. The water, the blood.
The blood.
That will remove the blood, but it has to be done within 72 hours. From slaughter until roasting, it has to be less than 72 hours. Otherwise, it just saturates in the blood, and it's too late. Another thing is the heart. Also, the heart, of course, is blood, so I don't think that's even eaten. That's very complicated. It's very complex. So we don't have hearts. Now, interesting. The prohibition of blood is only for animals. For humans, it doesn't say the blood of a human is unkosher. So does that mean I could just drink my own blood? So there is a rabbinic prohibition. They said, it's so confusing. You don't want to start having blood and then saying, oh, this one is kosher, this one is not kosher.
Oh,
So the way it works is that if it's noticeable, even if it's not an animal blood, even if it's human blood, but it's noticeable, you can't have that either. However, if it's, let's say someone has something in their mouth, they bit their tongue and they're bleeding, or they bit their cheek, so no one sees that. So there's no real issue. That's not unkosher. That if you just swallow that, I don't know if you want to, but if you do, that's not unkosher. Another place that you find blood is in eggs. And
Not so much anymore.
right, it's if you get organic eggs, it might be more common. But all that also is not considered. It's not the same kind of blood. It's not the same status of blood halachically, because it's not from a living animal. The egg was never fertilized. Usually, it's not. It's a different kind of blood. It doesn't have the same status of blood, but still we avoid it. That's why we have to check our eggs. I personally never found a blood spot in an egg.
I
But,
did once.
Okay, so that shows you how uncommon they are. We
I
haven't,
have a few years on you.
right.
me too.
Have you ever found a blood spot?
Yes, years ago. In my old age, I've developed an allergy to eggs, so I don't
Oh
even
wow.
bother with them. But years ago, yes.
Yeah, my wife I
Crack
think found it
eggs,
once or
yeah.
twice.
Crack the egg into the bowl and you check it. And if it's the blood spot, you just throw it out.
Yeah.
Or you could cook it and feed it to your animal. No?
Yeah, you could do that.
Animals don't stay kosher.
Correct. Unless it's a Jewish animal.
Yeah, we have a Jewish cat. Her name's Nudnik.
Nudnik. Oh wow. I remember. I think I once met Nudnik a while back. Wow. Okay. Now we have a few more rabbinic prohibitions. So we mentioned before that anything that comes out of a kosher animal is kosher, unless you mix the milk and meat, right? Otherwise, kosher. Chicken egg is kosher. Cow milk is kosher. But rabbinically, cow milk is not kosher unless a Jew saw it being extracted.
Oh,
Really?
Chalav Yisrael has to be Jewish milk. Why? Because it used to be. I mean, it still is it's a temptation to mix milks. If you don't see it where you don't see where it came from, it might be pig milk, it might be something else, it might be a mixture. So the rabbis kind of give us this extra prohibition. Even if you go to a Gentile farm and he's selling you cow milk, you can't just have it as is. You have to see that he actually extracted it from a cow. Nowadays there is a very common, I guess, loophole you could say that people use to kind of avoid this requirement, and that is the FDA.
What?
The FDA
Oh,
or any other whichever other association or thing that exists in any other country. And if you're dealing with something commercially on a professional level, people have to keep a standard. They have to the cow has to be cow. It can't be anything else. So they rely on that, and that way you don't have to send Jews down to the farm. So a lot of people rely on that. Many, it's more common in non-Hasidic communities. Hasidic circles, especially Chabad, is very particular that even with that, we still make sure to only use milk that a Jew actually saw it being extracted. Halav Yisrael, Jewish milk. Very,
well,
very
that
important.
has the kosher hechsher.
What's that? I think it got cut off.
I buy yogurt that has the kosher hechsher on it. It's
Right. So
what
if
about milk
if
that
it
has the
so good question. So when it comes to cheese or yogurt, so once it's processed, the way it works is that unkosher milk does not harden. It can't become cheese. It just doesn't work.
Really?
It doesn't happen. So cheese could only be kosher. I mean, there's still ways of it being unkosher, but that's a little bit complicated, and it's not for now. But generally,
okay.
Unkosher milk.
cannot become cheese. I mean, it could be maybe they have some scientific tricks now. They have some chemicals that they use, but the Talmud definitely says this, that if it's
But,
unkosher milk, it's not going to become cheese.
but cheese is milk. It's not, and you can't mix it with meat.
Right. Right.
So what's the difference
Between
between, well, you're saying that cheese is not affected by kosher, or I'm not.
No,
clear.
he was saying that you won't be able to make cheese from non-kosher milk.
Okay.
It won't harden. But I mean, that's not true.
it's not true. I didn't even know.
I mean, you
You
said,
could you get
said that milk can only be kosher if you saw a Jew
either he was doing it himself
Yeah.
or a Jew was watching the process.
Jew wasn't somebody else. Today they have machines that
Right.
extract
Right. So
the milk.
certain kosher agencies will rely on cameras and that's a whole other discussion if cameras are good enough. Sometimes that's not always enough for kosher standards. Chana Silverman, I see your lips moving. Are you talking to us?
No, I'm sorry.
Okay,
My
I
nose
wasn't sure. I
itches.
thought maybe you got disconnected and were trying to tell me something. Okay.
No, I just had a question about kosher yogurt because there's the yogurt I buy has the symbol on it.
So if it has a symbol, then it's kosher. Absolutely.
Okay.
A lot of times they'll add because since it's not necessary, not necessarily required in in today's commercial market. So it's a lot of times if it is, so to speak, Jewish milk, it'll say that clearly. They'll add that. Besides for the kosher label, they'll add it under. It'll say in Hebrew Chalav Yisrael or in English Chalav Yisrael.
Well, every once in a while I make my own yogurt.
Really.
Easy.
We once tried it where they had a special machine where
Yeah,
if you buy yogurt that's already made and then you add milk to it and you let it sit, it kind of turns it.
Yeah.
Is that what you're?
I had an Arab neighbor that showed me how to make yogurt one time years ago. And you get the milk and you leave it in the oven overnight where the pilot light is on. And in the morning, it's yogurt.
It's probably delicious.
Yeah, it was.
If you have a pilot light.
Yes.
Okay, another law. Looks like we're gonna have to continue this next week because there's still plenty more. Thank God. But one more rabbinic law involves wine. There's a special rabbinic law that wine which was handled by a non-Jew should not be used.
Really?
Yes. Now the reason for that it goes back already to biblical law, and that is that according to biblical law, anything which is used, it's not so common nowadays, but anything which is used as an offering for an idol becomes unkosher.
And wine was used as an
So wine, yeah, it used to be used as a libation. They would pour it. I mean, in the temple in Jerusalem, we would do that as well. We would also pour wine for
How about
for Hashem.
the wine has been handled properly and put into a bottle, but the bottle is handled by.
Right. So what? Yeah. If it's only if they actually touch the actual wine, they become wet. If it's once it's sealed, once that's fine. So the idea is, of course, nowadays most people you're going to meet around here are not going to be pouring their wine libations to anyone, no matter it's not so common. But the rabbinic decree is that we're always kind of wary of that possibility, and therefore, once a Gentile touches the wine, even if he's an atheist, doesn't believe in anything, we just avoid that wine. So that's another thing that's out there. There's a whole bunch of prohibitions or laws that involve produce. Actually, I want to mention one of them, and that is challah. So everyone knows the word challah. Challah actually means a few different things. So literally, challah means a loaf. In Hebrew, the word challah means a loaf, but it also refers to a mitzvah of challah, which means that anytime we make a dough, it has to be above a certain size. It has to be at least around 3 pounds of flour. So I know for myself, most of the machine that I have only takes about 2.5 pounds. So I'm usually exempt from this mitzvah unless I make a very big dough. But if you're making a larger dough, so we have an obligation to take a piece of that, take off a piece,
burn it.
and the original requirement is to take that dough and give it as a gift to a Kohen. However, because of the particulars that gift is considered a holy kind of gift, and it should not be eaten when it's impure. And nowadays, we're all impure for one reason or another. We don't have this some of the the idea, some of the processes, some of the things that we do to become pure don't exist currently. So therefore we're all impure. So whenever we take off a piece of the dough, it's impure. So we can't give it to the Kohen. He's not going to be allowed to eat it. So we burn it.
A thought came to mind on Passover. We're supposed to invite strangers in to join us at the Seder. And they too share in the wine.
Right. Very good. So it makes life complicated. So one of the most common workarounds is if the wine is cooked, if the wine is boiled. If you look on a lot of the kosher wines will actually say somewhere on the label, somewhere it'll say mevushal in Hebrew, it means cooked. And the reason is because I don't know if this is in today's standards, I don't know if this is This is
Mhm.
true, but cooked wine is considered inferior, and therefore it would never be used as, no Gentile would ever use it as an offering. This is not a good thing to use as an
Okay,
offering. It's
so
inferior.
even though everybody's handling the same wine, uh, it's, it's okay.
Yeah, if it's boiled,
Okay,
then there's no issue.
Batch has to be boiled or just like a
whatever,
teaspoon?
But whatever you're using, yeah, whatever.
yeah, whatever the quantity in the same.
There's a lot of very good kosher wines which are boiled,
And
and
they-
you'll never, yeah. A lot of things, I mean, I don't know if it's done with wines, but a lot of drinks are pasteurized, before they bottle it.
Yeah, it's true.
I don't know if wine is the same, but so yeah, that's the most common workaround.
Cooking kills the alcohol.
Right, so I guess there's some way that they do it.
Processes.
Yeah, I'm not sure how it's done. Yeah, I remember I remember once.
Well, you just confused me.
Oh man,
I have a
Wasn't
friend
trying.
who just converted to Judaism. I could tell her now that, she can now share wine with me.
okay, it's usually when you get, usually the fancier kinds of bottles
Uh-huh.
are usually not official, usually not cooked, not boiled. But if you're not, if you're like me and you don't look for the high standard of wine, then usually most of the time it will be boiled. Most of the time it's okay. So yeah. Okay, I got the rest of we'll continue on next week. And the official theme of next week is the kosher kitchen. We'll talk about not mixing milk and meat and some other things. And hopefully we'll finish off what we wanted to speak about this week. But the main thing is that we learned something new, and hopefully we can do something more. Okay. Okay.
It was very interesting class. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you for coming. I would have been lonely. I'm really glad that you joined us.
Okay. I'll see you next week.
Amazing. Okay. You're welcome to
Okay.
come to join in person next week if you're up to it.
We'll see.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll
Okay.
pick up anybody who needs a ride.